Welcome on in, everybody, to another fun, exciting episode of Dbacks Dispatch. Back with the full crew here after a few weeks of being just a two-man show. But it is your host, Brett, Gabe on my I guess would be on the screen on the left, Brandon on my right. Here to talk about some fun Dbacks spring training as we are so back. We have never been more back. Spring training is started. Baseball is officially underway. The games don't mean shit, obviously, so that's thankfully we don't have to worry about today's final score, which we'll kind of dive into a little bit here soon. But it's so nice to have baseball back. But again, if this is your first time here joining us here on Dbacks Dispatch, first off, want to welcome you in. Appreciate you stopping by, spending your free time with us gentlemen here. Let us know in the comments if this is your first time. Make sure you guys go follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky. We got a bunch of memes, a bunch of bangers, especially if you guys listen to the game today. And for some reason, they just had absolutely god awful microphones in the booth for some reason. I believe it was either Gabe or Josh. They put out a banger meme, so go check that out. Make sure you join the Discord as well. It's free. It's popping off, especially now that games are starting again. It's going to be going crazy in there, especially when the regular season starts. It's going to just be going absolutely wild. Make sure you guys also go over to azsnakebit.com, check out all the articles, especially as we're getting into spring training and closer to regular season. There's tons of amazing content on there. Like I think even today I saw like 4, 5, 6, almost more than that different articles being posted. So plenty of Dbacks related content to fit your guys' needs and exactly what you're looking for. So again, make sure you go over to azsnakebit.com. But like I said, we are here to discuss spring training, which we'll get to. That's going to be most of the show, but there's a little bit of news that obviously happened after our last show and before today's show that a lot of you guys already know about. And we wanted to, kind of at least open up the show here, give our 2 cents. Obviously, as we welcome in Ethan Draper, Corbin Barrels, everybody else, appreciate you guys stopping by. But we are going to open up the show here with kind of getting our thoughts in on the D-backs extending their captain. At least we're going to call him the captain. They might not give him the official title yet, but I think we all know who the actual official captain of the team is on the field and basically off the field. As the D-backs did give Geraldo Perdomo a 4-year, $45 million extension that includes a club option. His deal with the Diamondbacks includes a $5 million signing bonus and a club option for the 2030 season at $15 million with a $3 million buyout. So for a guy that can be anywhere from on average like 2 to 4 WAR per year, really solid deal, I think, for both the player and the club here. The signing bonus obviously is $5 million in 2026, 8 in 27, 11 in 2028. Looks like 13 in 2029. The club option for 15 in 2030. It can increase $5 million if he's an MVP, which, hey, it's going to be tough when you got guys like Corbin and Cattell on the team, but, never say never. So pretty much just a great deal for the team's captain. I think that it's really nice. We even kind of like talked about him a lot at the MV party, which again, if you guys didn't check out last episode, go listen to it. Brandon and Gabe had a great show discussing that and everything on there. But it's just something that I feel like wasn't expected. It kind of caught me off guard, but I think it's a solid move. It kind of solidifies them at shortstop, which we have a little bit of a question that I'll get to you guys kind of in regards to that. But I think it locks up the shortstop position. It keeps Perdomo here. It kind of gives him a deserved payday for a guy that is the heart and soul of this team. And I'm curious to get your gentlemen's thoughts on, and maybe even reactions on when this news came out, what you kind of thought. So Gabe, I'm going to pass it to you. Floor is yours. What are your thoughts on the captain getting his well-deserved extension and payday?
So just in general, I'm happy about it. Like, this is what you want from the team and from guys on the team. Like, you want them to be extended, so then there is no more, speculation or wondering after a couple years, like, are we going to be able to afford this guy? Is he going to be able to stay here? Just look at guys that we've lost, like Walker, Goldie, Corbin, Robbie Ray. Like, some of them a little more valuable than other ones, but for the most part, seeing our younger guys get this sort of extension, like with Corbin and now Perdomo, like, it is very encouraging to see, like, the way this organization is progressing towards locking up guys. Like I said, you don't want to get to a point in a couple years from now where guys are in their last years of arbitration or about to leave the team, and then you're kind of like, well, who do we have to replace this guy? And then you don't want to be scrambling to find a replacement for them. But Yeah, I think it's great. I really like Perdomo. I think like we've dubbed him El Capitan. Like he is the captain of the team. We want him to succeed here, and for the most part, this team is going to be probably going to be saving some money with him, just because he got 2.5 million in his first year arbitration. That's only going to go up from there. If he has a season like he did in 23, where he was an all star, then that 2.5 million suddenly turns to 7 or 8 million for next season, and then even another 15 million for the last season. So they're going to be able to at least save a little bit of money in the meantime. And again, they don't have to worry about going out to go get another shortstop in a couple years after that either. So it's great, and I think you know I wouldn't say it's a mistake for Hazen to extend guys, but I think he's learned from his specific mistakes of signing guys when they're a little bit older. He extended Nick Ahmed when he was 29, 30 years old, and he extended Cato Marte when he was around 29, 30 years old. Both great signings. I'm not going to say that they weren't. They were very good extensions. I just think in terms of their age, it's better to get them when they're a little bit younger, so then you're not paying them like in the case of Nick Ahmed, who was making 17 million, 18 million his last couple of years here, and he just was not worth that much money. Perdomo is only about 25 years old, so by the end of this extension, he should be entering his early 30s. He still is going to have a lot of value, and same with Corbin. He's going to have a lot of value still, even when he's entering his age 30 season. So you want this to be, the model that they're following. Same with the Braves, except the Braves, I'm assuming, hold families hostage or something with the way they've been able to extend Albies and Cunha. But yeah, again, you just want to follow that sort of model. So then you lock these guys up, and they're here for a while, and it just becomes such a steady presence on the team, and no one is wondering who's going to be the next shortstop, who's going to make third base, second base, whatever. Like it sucks to have that sort of insecurity for your team, with the guys on the team and as well as the fans. And so by doing this, I think it lets everyone know, like, hey, we got our future shortstop, we have our future second baseman, and then hopefully they can extend guys like Gabby or some other guys on the team. And we can get into it in a little bit as well, but the implications for Lawler as well. But overall, I think it's a great signing.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point of just kind of locking these guys down early, having some of the security with the team, the position, not letting these guys get into their final year of the contracts. Because I know it's a really popular scene in Moneyball, but even the manager being like, it's hard to manage a team on a 1-year contract. It's probably pretty hard for players to play on some of those like short-term deals because they could be pressing a little bit, especially if they're approaching like free agency. They're like, well, I want to do my best to make sure I get the best contract, the best like the deal out of everything in the end. I don't want to have to worry about, 1 year being the deciding factor whether I get paid or not. So it is nice to know that he's just kind of paid up front and we don't have to worry about that. And like you said, we'll get into a little bit of a Lawler discussion here. But Brandon, I want to pass it to you first, or not first. I want to pass it to you next. Kind of get your thoughts on everything on Doma's extension, what it means for the team, and just how either happy or surprised you were by that news last week.
I definitely was surprised. Like, if you would have asked me, like, who's probably the next 3 guys that you would like to see the Diamondbacks lock up long term, I love Jerry, you guys, but he would not have been on that list. It definitely would have been Gallen for sure. It would have been Gabby, and then I don't know. Like, Perdomo did not enter my mind. Looking at the details of this extension, I love it. I love how it has basically a bonus for MVP. Because we love Jerry. There's no way in hell he'll be in any MVP discussions. This is not trashing on him. It's just, what he does is something that you just can't teach. He just has that leadership ability. He is the captain of this team. He is Merrill Kelly's father, for anyone that forgot. Geraldo Perdomo is his father. Like, everyone was like, oh, this is bad for Jordan Lawler. No, it is. This for me, this did nothing to sway me on is Lawler gonna be playing on this team, because Geraldo Perdomo is gonna be like, I don't think long term he's gonna be stuck at shortstop. I think personally, because I think Lawler is better defensively, has a better arm. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide, you know what, Cattell, you're going to be a full-time DH. Perdomo, we're going to move you to second. Or they keep Perdomo at shortstop and they put Lawler at third. Or they flip. They put Perdomo at third and Lawler at shortstop. Like this doesn't change anything about Lawler. Just because they lock him up does not mean, oh, maybe they're thinking of training Lawler. No, they're not. They absolutely, like, this is just people from the outside. I still love how Mets fans are still pissed at Geraldo Perdomo from 2023. Still mad that he made the All-Star game and Francisco Lindor didn't. Like after this extension was announced, they all were like, oh, how come he made the All-Star team and Lindor didn't? It doesn't matter. He did. Like, y'all need to move on. But like this extension, like it's not an overpay. Like I saw a lot of people's like, that's a lot for someone like outside of this fan base. A lot of people have probably no idea. They probably immediately went to his stats and were like, why? I still think the most impressive thing I've seen is the literally leaps and bounds improvement he made from 22 to 23. 22, he played full time because there was no other options. Ahmed was hurt, and literally this team did not have any other options for shortstop. And I think that helped him out long term more than I think a lot of people realized at the time. And I think we saw it in 23, just how much of an improvement that he made. Like, he went from a 0.6 WAR to a 2.3 WAR in just one season. That's really impressive. And just like, if you just look at like the basic stat, like it doesn't look like that much of a yeah, he had 16 more hits, 10 more doubles, 14 more walks, like everything, like on paper, like on face value, like it doesn't look like that big of a improvement. But again, one of the things he does better than anyone in baseball, lays down that sack bunt. Nobody else. And I think this is indisputable. No one else is a better 9-hole hitter than Geraldo Perdomo. He is the best because he's another leadoff guy. He does exactly what you want your leadoff guy to do. He either gets a guy over, single, or just has a long at bat. In those moments, you're like, that's not a big deal. I mean, he could turn like an 8-pitch inning into a 16 to 17, 18 pitch inning, just like that. And that is a huge difference. Like that could change a starter from going maybe 5 1/3 to 6 like it's such a big difference to me. He just does things that are just underappreciated by the casual fan. Even probably the casual D-back fan does not know how amazing he is. Now, we know a lot of people that have always been on the Perdomo hype train. Like the entire time, he is our risk king. He just, when there's runners in scoring position, that clutch factor. Again, that's, in my opinion, something you cannot quantify. Some guys have it, some guys don't. And Jerry is one of those guys. So I'm real, like, I want him to take another step forward. And for me, the biggest thing to see this season, power. Just stop with these warning track flyouts. Like literally like 5 to 10 feet short. Like if he just worked on that strength just a little bit, I think he's a good defensive shortstop. I don't know if he's Gold Glove, but he's not a liability out there. So does a really, really great job. So I love anytime that they mic him up is some of the most entertaining content you will ever see. And I hope they do it this spring training, because when they did it last year spring training, we got some really great zingers from him. The whole how he's Merrill Kelly's father was really great. So congratulations to Perdomo. Very much deserved.
Yeah, so he, bring up a great point. He did kind of get, forged by fire in that season. called up maybe a little bit earlier because he even gave when he brought up most of the extensions they give these guys are in their 30s or at least approaching their 30s, and he's not going to be hitting. He's what, like 20? How old did you say he was, Gabe? Like he's like still pretty young.
Yeah, he's 25.
Yeah, he's like super young compared to a lot of the other guys that get extensions too. So it's definitely one of those where, from that early season, it was maybe a little bit too early from when he was brought up, but I think it, like Brandon said, helped him in the long run. And there are a lot of just intangibles that I feel like any non-D-back fan or anybody that doesn't, not in like a mean way, but even more of like a casual D-back fan, somebody who kind of like tunes in here and there, doesn't really watch like every single game, might just be more of a box score watcher with, again, nothing like against that at all. Like, that's very fair. That happens a bunch. Like, but you're going to miss things like Brandon said, him being a really good 9-hole hitter. Sometimes Torrey and his bunts do drive us a little bit crazy every now and then, don't get me wrong, but he is our Geraldo bunt domo. He is our Risp king. So there's a lot of good things about him that I feel like even like Brandon said with his power, it's some good signs that we'll kind of get into in a little bit in here. But even today, he had a double that was 94 miles an hour off the bat, which to a lot of people, it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, it's not like crazy hard. It's not like the Shohei and the Cattell where he's hitting the ball like 106 to even 110 plus at times, but still great signs from Perdomo, at least in today's game. If he can get a little more power, it just adds a little bit more, kind of. He's not like he's a one-dimensional player, but it adds just a little bit of an extra, like edge to his game as a player. Where if you can get a little bit more pop in that 9-hole, who knows? Maybe you can get a few more extra base hits. Get into scoring position for the top lineup like Corbin and Cattell, and kind of just help the team out overall. I think that he does have I think he's going to have a big jump this year from what he's already been. I think we're going to see the defense kind of get even better, kind of like how we saw over those years. Nick Ahmed, his defense just get better and better. But I kind of agree with just both of you guys. This is just a great signing, something that I think that it's nice to kind of have out of the way and know that we are going to be locked down in the shortstop position. But Gabe did mention this earlier, a little bit of teaser. It does have some implications for one of the D-backs, top prospects, or I believe their top prospect currently, which I'll get to in a second. But I do want to, obviously shout out, read some of the comments here. Obviously, Ethan Draper earlier, so pumped for the season with you guys. Hey, we appreciate it. Hope you guys are along for the ride. We're going to have tons of content for you here on the pod, written, Discord as well, memes. So anything for your cup of tea, we'll be here for it. Mr. Barrels, Baseball's Backfill is indeed long-time listener, first-time caller. I like it. Maybe down the road we'll get some like questions from you guys in like an audio form so we can have you guys like little radio show kind of thing, but that'd be fun. Rudy, first lineup looked good. All that matters, Burns shoved in his first inning. Very true. We'll touch on Burns a little bit more, but there were a lot of good things in today's game from the A squad before they were kind of taken out for the B and C squad.
From what we heard, because no one actually physically saw it.
Yeah, I mean, there were people that saw it in person and everything, but yes, they definitely need to see those games on TV more, please. I'm begging you, MLB. Like I'm paying you my money. Just let me watch spring training games. I need that content injected into my veins. John Kennedy, welcome in. Appreciate to have you. Domo, John also said Domo deal seems really fair for the team. I agree. I think that just in the long run, it's not going to be a bad deal. Like maybe he could have a little bit of a dip in production. And if he does, I don't think that it's going to hurt the team in the money. It's not going to be like a Madison Bumgarner deal like that, or where you're like, wow, holy shit, we're paying this guy this much money to do what exactly? And then Oscar also bringing up saying he should get MVP votes for being a leader, which, hey, you know what? Sometimes it seems like the voters kind of want to go that route, but I don't hate that idea.
If Lindor ends up in second place because he's a natural leader, then who's to say Perdomo can end up second or third because he's a natural leader?
Facts. Gabe speaks nothing but facts, and that's what you get here at Dbacks Dispatch. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but I did it anyway. But as I said, the Perdomo signing does have some other implications. As the Dbacks top prospect, Jordan Lawler, who is a shortstop, still pretty young. I think he's only like 22, 23 himself. So it's not like he's just being wasted away in the minors, but it does kind of feel like that. I know a lot of Dbacks fans, even myself, or like even Gabe, we've talked about a bunch in the show. You got to find something to do with him. And it does basically block him, at least for the short time being at shortstop, maybe until, like Brandon mentioned, maybe Cattell getting moved off second base into a DH role, and then thus opening up a spot for Lawler to take that shortstop role as Perdomo slides over to second base. But with Perdomo getting that extension, there was a interesting quote. I believe it was the day or two after, from Alex Weiner. He did have a quote from Mike Hazen on Jordan Lawler, where Hazen was quoted saying, "When Jordan Lawler is ready to be on this team, Jordan Lawler will be on this team." Where Mike likes, there's a lot of times where Mike will say something where if you read it in a quote, it sounds very dry, it sounds very harsh, but then, if you hear the actual clip, or if there's an actual clip to it, sounds like he's kind of having a little bit of, joking, a little humor to it. So I'm going to take it that route. I think that was a little more of a joke, but with the Domo extension and obviously Hazen's comments on Jordan Lawler, my question to you guys, obviously you guys in the chat as well, chime in, let me know your thoughts. Where what this, just in general means for Jordan Lawler's future. Do you think that it seems like Jordan Lawler might have, in Hazen and Lovello's eyes, like executed a puppy in front of him, and that's why they have just an absolute grudge against him, because they just seem to not want to give him any shots. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on, what this means for Jordan Lawler coming down the line.
So, I mean, there's a theory I had early on. I don't know if I ever put in this group chat at the time, but just during that Cubs series when he first got called up, the fact that he missed a bunt sign and he got a base hit off of it. And after that, it seemed like Torrey was just unwilling to give him any more play time. And about a week after that, there was an interview where they asked him, like, you have a really good rapport with the guys. Like, they seem to see you like almost like a dad figure. Like, have you ever had to put somebody in their place? And he said, like, yeah, recently I had to put in, one of the young guys in their place. Like, I told him that they're being effing selfish. And he specifically said that, he didn't say who it was about or what it was about, but it was close enough. But it was enough, it was close enough to the, to what happened, to where I was like, he's talking about Lawler? Because I can't imagine anybody else, doing something that would impact his team. Like, maybe just the guy missed a bunt. Like, after that, like I said, he just didn't seem to get playing time at all the rest of the season. And then even on the playoff roster, I don't think he got a single at bat. Like, got no playing time, even though he was on there. They just said, yeah, it's a good experience for him, blah, blah, blah. And which is really weird. And here's the thing I will say about Lawler: he can't stay healthy, and that's been a problem for him the last couple of years. Especially last year, he was injured and he was just out for the entire season. Like, he had the thumb thing, and then I believe had some sort of shoulder issue. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but he missed most of the season. He did have about 90 at bats in the minors, which was, he batted like 1,200 OPS during that time in the minors. But again, he's not helping his case out by being injured. So hopefully he can stay healthy so they can give him a chance. But I don't think it's necessarily blocks him. I think maybe at this point it would be, like, maybe whatever it was that happened, it should hopefully be water under the bridge at this point, and they can give him a chance. But yeah, one of the other things was just the fact that first day of spring training, Torrey says there is no competition for the shortstop position. Perdomo's the shortstop of the future. And at that point, we're all like, damn, dude, like, not even giving him a chance or something. Like, holy crap. But yeah, hopefully, again, I said this early on this year, a few podcasts ago, like, if you're Lawler, you got to show this team that you have to be up in the major league. Like, you have to hit 400, like, make it undeniable that you should be on the major league roster. And, if you can't go out there and bat 250 during spring, or have a couple of errors in spring, and then, be upset that you got sent down, like, you got to show this team that you're, I mean, it's a rough way to say it, but you're better than everybody else. And you have to have that sort of mentality that you're the best guy for each position. And, hopefully that can carry over. And from his interview during the MV party, he did say, like, his goal for this year is to go up to the major league roster and stay there. Hopefully he stays there. I think he does have a spot on this roster, maybe not so much this year, but for next year. We are losing Gino, we are losing Naylor as of right now. They both don't have extensions, so there's two positions right there they can take, either first or third. And we've talked about Cattell. Cattell's getting older. His main value comes from his bat, so the second base position is also open for him. So hopefully we can find a spot for him. I don't think this is, any shot at him at this point, but again, he has to show this team that he's worth being on the major league roster. And I mean, you can't really waste him in Reno. Like I said, if he bats 400, how can you explain to the fan base? Yeah, we just think he serves better in Reno. He's batting 400 in the major leagues. He's going to bat 500 in Reno, and then what do? Just kind of, insult the fan base by, pulling the Chris Bryant or something, just keeping him down there. Like, you can't do that with him. And hopefully we see him on the roster and he becomes the star that we all think he is.
Yeah, you make some great points to where he, not in like a harsh way. I know in baseball, nobody's going to be just in every aspect of life. Nobody's ever perfect in anything. Like, it's not a thing. But he basically needs to play perfect. He needs to be borderline flawless when it comes to his spring play if he wants to force their hand and win a major league spot. It's going to be tough when even it seems like the main spot that's open is that utility spot where guys like Garrett Hampson and Ildemaro Vargas, again, we'll kind of dig into them in a little bit here, but they had some pretty solid showings in their outings today in spring, so they could already have a leg up in that competition to where, like you said, he's going to be you're going to want him to get as many bats as possible. And unless he's hitting like 400, he's going to have a tough time finding his way up here. I don't think that, I know there's a lot of talk about people being like, oh, cool, we're just going to trade away Lawler. It seemed like a very popular thing. Like, oh, cool, he's, we're going to trade him. He's going to be traded instantly. And it's like, no, I don't think that's going to be the case in any way, shape, or form. Because again, like Brandon mentioned earlier, and even like you mentioned yourself, Gabe, after this year, Gino's gone, there's going to be spots that open up for him, whether it's at short, whether there's some sliding around the infield to where it gives him that shortstop position to fight for, or they try to, move him over to third. Like there's going to be some opportunity for him. It's just one of those like unfortunate times to where he is such a superstar athlete. Obviously, there's a reason why we drafted him 6th overall in, I believe, the 21 draft. Like he did really good in the minors. Like even with that shoulder injury, he skyrocketed his way up here. It's just unfortunate timing, just with the roster construction and how hopefully ready he is to where maybe it's, he's not ready yet, but I do agree. I don't want to see any kind of Chris Bryant shenanigans where they keep him down the minors to avoid service time manipulation. I don't think the D-backs would do that in general because they don't seem like that kind of team, like the Rockies or like the Cubs are in general. But, that's one of those where that's kind of up to the D-backs. They could decide what to do with him. They could just keep him in Reno for another year and wait for next year, but we'll have to wait and see. But Brandon, I know you touched on him a little bit. You did bring up earlier about the possibility of him being at the shortstop because you think that he is, better arm, better fielder than Perdomo. What are your just general thoughts on Jordan Lawler's future as a D-back now that Perdomo is locked down for the foreseeable future at shortstop?
I just hope that they don't use, like Gabe said, that game from 2023 against the Cubs. Like they don't hold that over him for almost an entire year. Like, okay, last year maybe they would have, but he got hurt in spring. Like he was first out, I think, like 3 months to start the year. So like at that point, like we knew he wasn't going to be playing on the major league roster. But I think he's going to have to force this team to keep him up. Like he's going to have to bat 400 in spring. He's going to have to play flawless defense. If he ends spring hitting like under 250, I could definitely see them starting him in Reno, because he's not starting over Perdomo. He's not starting over Suarez. He's not starting over Cattell. He's not getting that DH. So he's gonna have to show them that he's ready. So that quote from Hazen was so vague to me. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like,
sounds like a parent scolding their kid, where it just sounded very parent-esque the way he kind of worded it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I just like the way that it was worded. I just like it. It sounded like to me that they're still holding him. They're still holding that situation on him, which is beyond petty at this point. Like this is a year plus at this point, almost a year and a half, over just a simple, like he was young. Okay, he made a mistake. Unless there's other things going on that we don't, as a fan base, know about, like there have been other situations that they've asked him to do things and he didn't do it. Could be just a immature thing, and he's not a team player. Again, we don't know. I'm just speculating because to me personally, it does not make sense to kind of punish someone for a year and a half for not laying down a bunt. I know everyone thinks that Suarez isn't coming back. He's only 33, you guys. If he has another 20 plus, 80 plus RBI, I'm just saying, be prepared. They might re-sign him.
Don't worry, that money's going to Vladdy next year. We're not bringing. I'm just kidding.
Vladdy.
I know that's not
not
happening. But I like the joke.
Not with the AAV that he wants. No, like I love Vladdy on this team, but not for the 35, 40 AAV that he wants. No, I'd rather, to be honest, I'd rather throw that at Gallon. To be honest, I'd rather have two shut down starting pitchers. So, yeah, like I think Lawler just he can't have an average spring. He has to have a very good, amazing spring for him to make, because they'll probably, the utility guy will be like Brett said, Garrett Hampson or Vargas. They brought him back for like the third time. They obviously like him. Fourth? I don't know. Like
It's either third or fourth. He's been a D-back so many times.
He really has. So, yeah, like Corbin Burns made his freaking debut today, and wasn't spectacular.
Yes, you teed it up perfectly for me. Obviously today was it was it basically felt like a holiday. Made a Friday at work where normally Fridays I feel like go by fast. It just absolutely drug on because I was like, please, is it 110 yet? I just want to listen to some D-backs baseball. I just want it to be, baseball time again. And great start to the day. Obviously, the end of the game wasn't the best. The D-backs did drop the spring opener to the Colorado Rockies 8-12. A little bit of a blow up ninth inning for one of the D-backs B or C squad pitchers. There was a few of those guys, but again, it's a lot of the nerves guys that are going to try to make a name for themselves or try to make a good impression. Just lose a little bit, try to throw too hard, whatever. So there's a few innings there where some of the D-backs B pitchers struggled, but the D-backs A pitcher in his debut did not struggle, as Corbin Burns went one inning with 3 strikeouts on 16 pitches, with 12 of them being strikes. We'll kind of save him for later in the show for our next segment. We'll kind of dive into him a little bit, get our thoughts and stuff like that. Cattell opened up the scoring. He went 1 for 2 with an RBI knock. Gino went 2 for 2 with 2 RBI, so he was doing pretty solid as well. Looks like he's continuing from his second half tear. Ildemaro Vargas, as we previously mentioned, he did put the D-backs up after they were down 5-3, or I believe it was 5-3, then 5-4, following a Tristan English RBI knock. Vargas hit a 2-run blast to put them up momentarily. And then there's some other guys that obviously came in the bullpen. Connor Grams went 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. I believe he was touching like 98 on his sinker. He looked pretty solid. Maybe a guy that could turn into a pretty solid bullpen piece in a year or so. But definitely jumped out a little bit. He was a guy that I did not have in my radar, a name that I wasn't too familiar with, and I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on him going throughout the season and hopefully into next season. Because again, we talked about it before, the bullpen, just like the starting rotation, there's so many options, there's so many names to where you really got to have it's a good problem to have, whether it's the infield, bullpen, rotation. There's a few guys that have to have borderline rookie road to the show numbers and force the team to give them a spot. But who knows? Grams will be a guy that we can definitely look forward to getting some more innings and whatnot, and in the minor leagues, and as well as maybe next year in spring training as well. But like I said, spring training wins and losses mean absolutely nothing. I believe it was the 2017 season when the D-backs went to the playoffs. They had like one of the worst spring training records. I think they only won like 5 or 6 games that year, and they were a playoff team. So wins and losses in spring training are just meaningless, does not matter. Obviously, it's still fun, especially, they only had their A squad out there for like 3 or 4 innings. So it's one of those, a 3-0 lead for Corbin Burns, the way he was going after that first inning probably would have been enough, but that's something that we'll have to see later in the season, hopefully. But my question to you guys, Brandon and Gabe as well, everybody in the chat, shout out everybody. I know my wife's in here trying to hype up the Pavin Smith MVP campaign, and I'm pretty sure she loves Pavin more than me at this point. I'm just kidding. I jest. But my question to you guys is how nice just in general it felt to have baseball back and just being one step closer to opening day and officially being back with our favorite sport.
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited. I was watching the Dodgers versus the Cubs. Like, I care literally zero about both those teams, and I watched for the first few innings just because I was just so excited to have baseball back. Like, it is my favorite sport, and I love basketball. I love soccer. Like, I like football a lot, and yeah, with the way the Suns have been, it has been a very, very long off seasons, and with the Cardinals, it's just been very long, and so all of our hopes are on the D-backs right now, which is great. I think at least for the D-backs, they should be able to take advantage of this because it's not like we're going to be paying attention to the Suns, come May or June because they are not going to be in the playoffs, and same with the Cardinals. We don't have to pay attention to them until September. But by then, maybe the D-backs are going to be in the playoffs or in playoff hunt in September and then in October. But yeah, this is just a really, really good, exciting time to be a baseball fan. Even in those really bad seasons, I think the whole valley was still, you have a little bit of excitement because with the way baseball works, you're always going to feel like maybe, maybe we can make the playoffs.
Unless you're a White
Um,
Sox fan.
yeah, poor White Sox fans, you have to be talked off a bridge at this point, poor guys. But I mean, even though the D-backs 2022, 23, there's still some excitement. We're like, who knows, maybe. And then, we went to the World Series in 23. So you never know with the sport like baseball. I mean, honestly, with how much trash has been talked about the A's recently, it wouldn't surprise me if they made the playoffs. They have a lot of really good young guys there. Like I said, the only team that are truly out at this point are the Marlins and the White Sox because just they spend no money and they have creative players on their team right now. So it is still exciting to have the D-backs. Just the fact that we have Corbin Burns. I know early on we were all pretty disappointed at that they hadn't done any moves. We're like, are they going to do anything? Like, this is our window. And we got the best pitcher available. And we have two aces right now. And then we have, a bunch of number two guys to supplement that squad. So it is really exciting. It's exciting to see Corbin Burns come out there and shove because a lot of our signings haven't done that either. I remember Greinke's first time here throwing 87 or whatever it was. And we were like, all right, did we make a mistake? And no, maybe he just struggled a little bit that first year, but after that, he was incredible. And then Bumgarner just was garbage. And then even our guys like Erod or Montgomery, like they did not perform too well out of the gate. So just having Corbin Burns come out there and just throw basically nothing but cutters at 94, 95 and dice these guys up. And yeah, sure, it's spring training and nobody's really at their best right now, but just going out there and being able to throw 95 at this point in the spring, like it's a really good encouraging sign. That means you can probably ramp up to 96, 97. A 96, 97 mile per hour cutter is disgusting. So hopefully,
especially if you have a 97 mile an hour sinker.
Sinker, and then who knows what that's going to mean for Gallon as well. We haven't seen Gallon. We haven't seen what he's worked on. We haven't seen if he's worked with Corbin Burns at all to improve his cutter because he does have a really good cutter. So yeah, it's just exciting, and I just wanted to have baseball back. I posted that video of stupid Tatum earlier when he does that. We did it. Like, we're back. Finally, we're back. It felt a little long, but didn't feel as long as some other years.
First off, that's what she said. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. But yeah, so Tatum was trying to aura farm. Does not work. He thinks he's Kevin Garnett. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. But yeah, I think Josh kind of has the same sentiments that a lot of us were feeling. Guys, we are so back, boys. Baseball is here. My wife in the comments saying I'm excited for opening day. Yes, probably one of the last few games we'll be able to go to before we take a nice like month-long break in the house, basically, when our kids here. So that'll be a fun one. If you guys are all at opening day, make sure to look out for me. And I believe, not sure if you boys are going to be there, but make sure you guys, say look out for us at the game. If you see us, don't be afraid to say hi. We had a few people at the MV party, which felt like it was definitely a very surreal moment. A few people, if you guys are listening, shout out you guys. But I forgot your names if you did tell us your name, so I do apologize. But a few people recognized us from the pod, and from the pod at the MV party, so that was a fun time. So always look out for us. Even Corbin Barrel saying I was pumped to see Gabby Molina Moreno. We'll definitely touch on him in a second because he was part of some excitement here at spring training that was new to everybody in spring training that we'll touch on, and that was just a fun time. But Brandon, same question to you. Just how good does it feel to have baseball back and being even just one step closer to opening day? Like, just even if it's spring training and the games don't matter, baseball's played today, man. We got to see the D-backs in the really nice, black and teal threads with that beautiful teal hat. Just how did it feel just, having this officially begin?
It's my favorite time of year. Like Gabe said, like I'm the same way. Like I like basketball, I like football, but once baseball season starts, I structure my life around it. Like every day I look like it, especially once the season starts, I like, okay, what time is the D-backs game today? Like, is it a 4:00 game, 5, 6, like I make sure that I schedule everything around it. Now, if I have something really important to do, obviously I'm going to take care of that and stuff like that. And then wins and losses mean nothing in any sport for the preseason. Like the amount of times that the Lions have gone undefeated in the preseason and that translated, nothing. Like wins and losses mean nothing. It's about how the guys perform. Yes, that's what you want to see is some of these like on the bubble or new guys. Like you want to see how they perform. Burns pass with flying color. Like that was probably the most dominant debut I've ever seen. Like I was like everyone else, we were listening to it on audio. I'm like first pitch strike, yes. First batter strikeout, yes. Strike out the side, and you're one inning. Let's go. You couldn't ask for anything more. Everyone, be ready to see that cutter a lot. He throws that cutter a lot. So Brett, he threw it 9 times out of his 16 pitches. So that's his pitch, and it's weird. He's only been throwing it a couple years. Like I think it was 3 or 4. It might have been 2020. He was he basically added it instead of his 4-seam. So yes, a cutter is technically a fastball, but it's not like what you like when someone's like, "Oh, throw me a fastball." Usually they're talking about a 4-seam fastball. But his go-to pitch is that cutter, and I would say his secondary is that sinker. Like that is probably what you're going to see 70% of the time, I'd say, is either one of those two. So, yeah, it was just so great just to have baseball back. We do get to actually physically watch a game tomorrow, too. Game's going to – now, it won't be a D-backs broadcast. I don't care.
I don't care
who's broadcasting it. I can actually physically watch the game. Just – everyone, you don't need to ask when the D-backs games are going to be on. It's 1:00. It's 1:00 literally every day until the very end of March, and then they got a couple of days off to start the season.
And there are 2 exhibition games. I believe they play the guard. It seems like every year, kind of like how every year they open up I think every team that shares a ballpark with somebody, like every year the Padres, Mariners play each other, the Cubs and Dodgers because they share a ballpark.
Cubs and Dodgers.
I believe the Giants
share.
And White Sox.
White Sox and Dodgers.
White Sox and Dodgers. Thank you. I knew I mixed up the Chicago teams, but it seems like the Cubs and Dodgers. I know they're specifically doing it this year because I believe they play in the Japan series. So I think they're just starting. That's why they started the day early. But it does seem like every year they do have the exhibition games against the Guardians. Like I feel like it's been 3-4 years in a row where they're against the Guardians. I could be mistaken. If I am, let me know in the comments in the chat. But that'll be a fun one. But yeah, like Brandon said, basically every other day than those, or every day other than those, 1:00. They should have at least the audio version. There was an app in our Discord that Brandon was talking about. That's a pretty fun one. Even if you're not watching the game, put it in there. And just even, for you guys that haven't experienced and get to see the blue in play runs. And, I like how last year they added the in-play outs for purple. So you don't see blue pop up and you're like, oh my God, no, what happened? And it's a ground out and you're like, don't gaslight me like this, MLB. Don't do this to me.
Or like a sac fly. You're like, oh, it's just a sac fly. Don't do that to me.
Exactly. So they definitely made some improvements over the years. So no matter what form it is in baseball, I'm just glad it's back. Brandon did kind of tee it up here for us and kind of go into the next topic and the next thing that we had here, which, it's only 2 or 3 innings of the main squad kind of playing, so there really wasn't too much meat on the bone for us to kind of dig into and sink our teeth into. But the big one, as we've already mentioned it multiple times, was Corbin Burns and his spring debut and his D-backs debut, just looking absolutely beautiful. I believe these videos were courtesy of the Reno Aces Twitter, so shout out the Reno Aces staff for getting us these clips, because again, we had no other way of seeing it. But he did go 3 up, 3 down, 3 strikeouts. There was one of the strikeouts that was assisted that we'll kind of touch on in here in a second. So we don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But again, 3 strikeouts, really solid. Just you couldn't ask for anything better. We already knew he'd only be going 1 inning. And even like Gabe said earlier, there's a good chance that he was holding back a little bit. He probably wasn't trying to go full gas. He probably has an extra tick or 2 on the cutter. Same with the sinker. So hopefully we'll see that as they get stretched out a little bit more heading into opening day in the regular season. But Corbin Burns just looked really solid in his debut. His cutter and sinker both touched 94. Like Brandon said, he did throw 9 cutters out of the 16 pitches that he threw today, which I believe the first at bat or the first batter was like 8 pitches. Brendan Doyle battled a little bit, fouled off a few pitches, which again, it just seems like whether it's a spring training game or regular season game, there's always going to be a batter in the first inning or so. We saw a lot of time with Zach Gallen. Somebody's going to fight, and he's at least already getting that out of the way. But it was just a really good day for Burns overall. Really good start that I imagine gave him, not like he needed a bit of confidence boost. He seems like a confident guy, and just a really funny guy. If you guys didn't see that video the D-backs social media team put out with the funny face filter, that shit was hilarious. Burns seemed to enjoy it more than many of the other guys out there. He was saying he looked good and needs some glasses. So it just seems like a fun guy off the field and a really fun player to watch on the field. So my question to you guys was, obviously I know Brandon, you kind of touched on it a little bit, so we'll still get your thoughts on it. But Gabe, I want to ask you, how did you feel about Burns' debut as a Diamondback, and how did he look out there in his first start? Like, just what are some of your thoughts and initial reactions?
I mean, same with the where you're talking about the wins and losses. A lot of times, performances don't really mean much. This is mostly for the team and for the executives and scouts and everyone else that's there to see, like, things that we don't see just because we don't have the technology to see it, but like the movement on the ball, the shape of the ball, the velocity, the spin rate. There's a lot of stuff, that for the most part the team will pay most of the attention to. Like, you could have gotten blown up today, and a team might see certain numbers where they're like, yeah, you know what, that cutter had a 2,500 spin rate or something like that. And then, so overall, it was an okay outing. But in his case, he came out, struck out the side. Like, I know the Rockies get a lot of flack, but they're a decent team, I think. Just their pitching. They have Marquez out. They have what's his name?
Santinella and then Freeland, I believe.
Yeah, Sensatella. Like, they had a few guys out last year for a while. They're 2 best pitchers, so obviously they're going to lose a lot of games. But I do think this is overall like a 70-win team, which is not a slight on them. I think 70 wins is very hard to do in baseball in general, especially in division like the NL West and the NL in general. I think 70 wins is still quite a bit. But yeah, I think he was, amazing as far as we could tell. Like, again, there's just wasn't on TV, and I don't understand why. Like, I get they've said at times that they want fans to go watch them in person, but like, maybe don't make the games at 110 and don't charge us $50 to go sit in the lawn with no seats. So then maybe we'd go support them in spring training a little bit more. But yeah, just hopefully we can get a little bit more footage of Corbin Burns later on. We can actually see him on TV. Once he starts to pitch a little bit more, probably he's going to go in 2-3 innings his next outing. But it was great to see him actually be able to strike out the side, because again, it's like, you're not expecting much. Even if you would have gotten a home run off of him, we're not going to panic, because like, it's still Corbin Burns, and what matters right now is the fact that he's healthy and that his velocity is about the same as it ever was. Because again, that is something to look at, especially with the starting pitcher. Like, the last few years with Sewald, Melanson, all these guys that we've had, that look at their velocities coming to spring and they're like in the high 80s. And that's, I know, again, it's spring, but that's a worrying trend with certain guys. And seeing him be able to get up to about 95 I think is really impressive, especially at this point in the spring. So it shows that he was able to keep his body in shape, and he's ready to go. And hopefully, the next few guys are ready to go like him.
Yes, I think it's definitely a good sign to start off, because I believe there was a graphic that we had of Burns. Yeah, here we go. Burns, obviously only one inning, so very small sample size, and might be a little bit tough for you guys to see maybe on the phone or in general. But basically, long story short, is just great signs in general from Burns. Like Gabe said, with the velocity, didn't seem like he was seeing like a tick or two below. From what I was looking on like Baseball Savant and all that, it looked like spin rate was really solid for him as well. It seemed like he was. I'm even looking it up right now to double check. But it seemed like compared to last year, maybe a little bit down on some of the like the break and all that. But his cutter looked like a little bit up on the vertical break, and then just very slightly down on sinker, slider, changeup. But again, it's the first day of spring. I imagine he's just trying to get a feel for things, not really trying to worry too much about pitch shaping and anything like that. So I think it's definitely some good signs. Something that's not a good sign, talking about with the the D-backs not being able to watch this one and only being on the radio, is like, oh cool, you think you'd incentivize some people to go to the ballpark, but even as Josh is saying, it would cost me $200 to go with my family, when not too long ago would have cost 20. And I fully agree. That's a rant that we can save for an entire another day. We could probably all go on for like 30-40 minutes just about spring training. There's a YouTube video I watched about how Ticketmaster's dog shit too, and how they're basically a shitty monopoly at this point. And I fully agree. Tickets are too expensive for just everything in general, especially spring training. Like it's make sporting events affordable for all fans. Don't make it turn into what we see with like the Yankees and New York teams, where it's like a corporate thing, like for Knicks and Yankees and Mets games, where it's like it's a thing for expensive businesses to go show off. Make it fun, because then we can actually get people out here, especially if you're not going to give us the opportunity to watch these games, because I want to see Corbin Burns. I wanted to see videos of it. And like I said, thank you to the Reno Aces Twitter for at least getting us clips of his strikeouts, because that's literally the only, other than other ones we've seen throughout, Twitter and all that, there's no video on it. So either give us videos and give us the streaming options, or make tickets cheaper. But I digress. Brandon, I know you touched on it a little bit already. Obviously gave your thoughts on just how excited you were to see Burns. But what else? Anything that you didn't fully touch on, or any other thoughts, obviously, on Burns and his debut in the black and teal?
Just the only thing that concerns me, when you start that well, there's only one direction to go, and that's this direction. But no, I think
Mr. Negative back. I'm just kidding.
I think there's no debate. He's a top 10 starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. I think most people, when they're ranking the 10 best starting pitchers, and some people might have him at 6, might have someone have him like 8, 9, or 10. But I think it is
top 5 too.
Like without a doubt, like Burns is like, okay, like some people are worried about his velocity, his strikeout has gone down. I don't care. Get 180 plus innings. 150, 160 strikeouts, keep that ERA. Like, he is a low ERA master. And that's what we needed last year from our starting pitchers, is don't give up as many runs. Because we have gone over it ad nauseum. There's so many different games from last year that we have pointed out, if it goes the other way, we're in the playoffs, and who knows what happens after that point. So, but no, it was great debut. Just thinking of him and Gabby together, he's better watch out, because his one blemish was runners. Like, people stole on him a lot, and who's, in my opinion, the best catcher at throwing guys out? Gabby. So if they can fix that, he's going to be even more deadly.
Yeah, so that combo will be definitely that'll be really fun to watch this year. And once again, putting it just right on the tee for me for transition. Thank you very much. As we saw,
it's like I can see a breakdown.
I know, it's crazy, right? As even in today's game, like I said, in the one inning that Corbin Burns had, Gabriel Moreno did turn a potential, I believe it was a 2-2 count, into strike 3, as for anybody that was there in person or people that I even saw online, Major League Baseball is trying out the automated ball strike system, which I believe is the Hawkeye system that I heard on the radio. That's the same thing that tennis has used for, 10, 15 years. So MLB, just like the Yankees, finally getting in the 21st century, finally joining the times and putting, resting their dinosaurs and not using them anymore. But Gabby Moreno was successful. He went 2 for 2 in the challenges today. There was a clip here from Patrick Lyons on Twitter. Shout out Patrick Lyons. As you can see right there, pitch was originally called a ball. Would have been a 2-2 count. I believe this is the second batter of the inning. Umpire or Gabby tapped the helmet. Really quick challenge. Seemed like a less than 15-second thing. Even just a little bit of the ball catching the zone, got it overturned, and I think that's going to be a game changer. Who knows how many games can be, like Brandon said earlier about having Burns for one of those games or two. Who knows, having the ABS, if we can see in the regular season, that could decide a outcome of a game probably multiple times. Which I'm okay. I'd rather have the games be absolutely accurate, because even in the second inning, the other one that he had overturned, I believe at least 80 to 90% of the ball was in the zone. So it was a very Angel Hernandez-esque call, which, again, granted, it is spring training for the umpires as well. Like Gabe said in our group chat, it's, they're still getting used to this. This is the first time they're probably seeing a lot of these guys throwing live pitching, just like a lot of these batters. Like, batters are behind, umpires are behind, pitchers are going to have a little bit of edge. So it is nice to see the automated ball strike system work as well as it did. And then there are even some clips where I think the Rays catcher in the Rays and Yankees game, he tried to challenge a pitch that was like a foot out of the zone, where it's like, hey buddy, maybe be a little bit, a little bit more or a little bit less trigger happy with that, because you only get 2 per game. I believe it's like the NFL, where if you get 2 challenges, if you use one and it's correct, you still have 2. If you burn one and it's incorrect, you will go down to 1. I could be mistaken on that, but definitely a fun concept. I think it's something that's going to be really fun for baseball, and it seems really fun for fans because you get to see it on the screen, get to see it overturned to a strike 3, adds to some excitement, some cheering. I think it's just great for the game in general. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts, obviously. It was the first time we saw it in an actual game. I know we saw it in the fall league last year. I saw it firsthand, and I loved it in the fall league. I think that they are borderline ready to implement it into the major leagues, but obviously we see a lot of these things where they test it in spring training. We'll probably see it in 2026, unfortunately, and not anytime in 2025. But hey, you know what? As long as it's on the horizon, I'm okay with it. My question to you guys, Brandon, Gabe, everybody else in chat that's at home listening, is just what are your thoughts on it? How do you, something that you liked about it, maybe you didn't like about it, if there is anything, just initial reactions to the new automated ball strike system?
So I guess the only thing I don't like about it is just the fact that it's not going to be implemented this year.
Yeah.
I think it's basically ready. I know they said they're just testing it out, but it seems like it's ready and it's functional. It does cut down. Like, I know people complain about the pace of play and everything, but what affects the pace of play more? A guy tapping his head and getting the call right in 6 seconds, or guys arguing and staying on the mound, doing a walk around when the umpire misses a call. We're saying with the pitcher, just walks around the mound, takes his sweet time to throw another pitch because he's frustrated. That does take a lot of time. And as a fan, it's frustrating. As we mentioned before, like, a strike in the first inning should be a strike in the 9th inning. And a lot of times it just isn't. We see umpires change their entire strike zone halfway through the game, where you see a ball hit the outside corner, and early on in the game it gets called. Obviously the pitchers know and the catcher knows, like, all right, he's been calling this all day. Let's get, we have the bases loaded, 2 strikes, 3 balls. Let's throw the ball this exact same area that it's been getting called all day. They hit that zone and it's suddenly a ball, and you're like, what the hell? Like, what are we supposed to do here? Like, you've been calling this all day. Now you decide you don't want to call it. And I think it cuts down a lot of the, the allegations for tampering and gambling and everything as well, since umpires don't have as much control as they used to. Go back and look at that Cubs versus Cleveland game. I believe it was game 5 of the World Series. Those calls, man, like, it was just like somebody needs to check that umpire's DraftKings account or something, because those were terrible calls that were in favor of the Cubs overall. They were balls straight down the middle that he wasn't calling for strikes against the Cubs, and balls 3-4 inches outside of the zone that he was calling for the for the Cubs pitching. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want that Angel Hernandez types just be in control of the games. You don't want a situation with Dan Bellino, is that his name, who was caressing Bumgarner's hands too. Like, as it is, they go on these weird ego trips, and then suddenly it's the third inning and your pitcher gets thrown out because he's arguing balls and strikes. And now, at least for spring training, there is no arguing anymore. Like, you think you got a strike, or you got a strike, or you got a ball, fine, challenge it. And if you're wrong, then that's on you and your it is a self-policing thing. So if your teammates, they see you waste a challenge on something you thought was a ball or was a strike, and you're wrong, your teammates are going to give you crap for that too. You're like, hey man, you got to be smarter about that. So then maybe we will be seeing it implemented a little bit less and a little bit less, just because guys probably will get better at knowing what is a strike and what is a ball. I believe yesterday, Dave Roberts mentioned that Max Muncy isn't allowed to do that because he has such a, he will argue every single ball and strike called against them. So he is one of those guys that they're not allowing. Like, I'm curious, somebody can ask Tori the same thing too. Like, who does he trust? Who does he not trust to call something like that?
Jerry, he probably does.
Jerry probably does. Like, I mean, last year we saw it a lot. Like when Corbin was struggling, so many balls inside, way inside, 3-4 inches inside, getting called for strike 3, and we're like, how is he going to break out of the slump? He's getting these calls called on him. So I just want it to be implemented as soon as possible. Like, I can't stand seeing these calls just be wrong over and over again, and there is no accountability for umpires. They will have the worst game of their life, and they just go and get put into the World Series. Like, it doesn't matter. And I think there should be some sort of accountability system for the umpires. Send them to AAA if they're struggling. Like, have a cap. Like, this isn't Congress. We don't need to have 80-year-olds out there.
Yes, it's definitely. I think you make a great point. All that. I wish they would have had it going into the MLB in the regular season this year. It feels like they're ready for it. It seems like it's working well, but obviously they don't like to make changes that quickly unless it's cheating, and it's. I think it's definitely going to be just a good thing overall. There was a comment here from good old Jeff. Jeff, appreciate you stopping by. I'd love to see you in here as always. But Jeff's saying he loves it. The only issue I've heard is that they may do away with the strike zone on TV broadcasts because they're supposedly worried about teams using it to cheat.
So I will say this.
It's a super small window. You don't have much.
It's a very small window, and only the batter, the catcher, and the pitcher. There is no way, if they have someone watching it on TV, is able to relay to someone in the dugout, and so Tori from the dugout can't say, Gabby, challenge. Like, he can't, if someone from the dugout tells someone to challenge, the ump can say no. So
plus there's a TV delay, so I feel like even
at the stadium there's a bit of delay. But also I will say to that point, the one on the TV, this frame on the TV is based off of the front of the plate. The ABS system is in the middle of the plate, so it's about 6 or 7 inches of difference. And don't let somebody tell you that 6 or 7 inches isn't a lot.
Dave, I love it.
Yeah, I want them to add this so bad. We've seen it in the first 2 days. They had it against Dodgers and Cubs, and it worked out. My only thing is 2 challenges is a little. I'm like, okay, but if you win both, I feel like you should be able to continue to use it.
I thought you can. I thought you stay with your challenges.
Yeah. You have 2. You can just keep having 2 until you lose them.
Okay, I thought it was you just after the second one you can't. Even if you win, you can't. Okay.
I'm checking.
So technically, could you because we've seen some games where it's every inning they miss one. So if you keep getting it, does that mean you literally could do it every? I feel like they're gonna cap it. It's you get 2, but you get them both, you only get 1 more.
The thing is, theoretically, they can use it every inning. They can use 2 challenges every inning if you want. But again, it's just going to come down to who does the team trust. If they trust their catcher enough, do they trust their pitcher enough, do they trust the batter enough to call it? Because if you lose it, then that's it. So I don't think it's gonna be abused as much as we might think so. But I think this is a good way to also show how good umpires are for the most part, because they do have to switch strike zones. Like having Aaron Judge and then Jose Altuve come up to bat, like they got to adjust that on the fly. They got to know a foot worth of of strike zone, and they do a very good job. Like I don't see this being something where you look at it and you're like, oh well, they got 95% of the challenges are successful. Like we saw today, the D-backs and Rockies went 5-for-5, but we saw that terrible
Raise one.
Rays one where I think it was just like 2 feet up in the air, and then they're like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, so for you guys in the chat, I did post a link to MLB's website that kind of does. It's literally a whole breakdown, deep dive into, like Gabe was saying, it shows you where it's measured at the middle of the plate. It's not the front of the plate, not the back of the plate. It's the middle, basically where I'm going to describe it this way. Basically, where the roof comes together in the house, that little intersection. That's MLB 101 for you guys. There you go. But it does have obviously a breakdown of like how many challenges each team receives, which is saying that each team will start the game with 2 challenges apiece. Says the batter, the pitcher, or the catcher can challenge the umpire's call, and no one else, not even the manager, may do so. Challenges must be made immediately after the umpire's call without assistance from the dugout or other players. I believe a successful challenge is retained. Yes, a team only loses its challenge if the umpire's call is confirmed. Because challenges can be lost, it is incumbent upon the players to be judicious about asking for a challenge. Example, not wasting it on a low leverage spot, which I was going to bring up. Like even Gabe said, sometimes you got to think about the position or the right moment to do it. Like, do you want to try to use that in the first inning with nobody on, 2 outs, and it's the first pitch of the at bat? Yes, if you get down 0-1 in the account, that does affect a lot of at bats, but do you want to use that or save it for like the 7th inning when you got runners in scoring position and it's a 2-2 count or a 3-2 count, which could lead to either strike 3 or ball 4.
Or the bottom of the 9th inning when you have bases loaded and you're a relief pitcher.
Exactly. And then the other part about this article that did, or at least the explanation, it was saying, do teams get an extra challenge in extra innings? And they say no. So this is just innings 1 through 9. Once you go into extra innings, it's in the umpire's hand, which that could be a little bit, maybe something that they changed.
So can you not do it if you have ones left, or is it just?
It's basically just once you go into the at least from my understanding on this article, if you have 2, and that's one of those where maybe that's where they try to get teams to maybe incentivize using it. Like again, save it for the 8th or 9th inning. If you're going into extra innings, like maybe that's one of those where, hey, maybe you look back and you're like, man, like the fact that we can't use it in the extras, maybe I should have used that in the 6th inning in a pivotal at bat. Maybe I should have used that in maybe even the 3rd or 4th inning in a crucial situation. Like that'll be definitely something kind of fun to see teams balance out. And then even Corbin Barrels in the chat bringing up a comment here that I think is a great thing, that we've seen a lot of new stats implemented. I know WAR is still recently new in the last 10-15 years. Especially a lot of like more like advanced metrics when it comes to measuring guys play. I'm really interested to see how long it takes for this to become like a measurable metric. For like, even framing's been something that I feel like in the last 4 or 5 years has been a more highly talked about thing when it comes with catchers. I know Gabby Moreno was criticized a little bit, and even at times seeing like, oh cool, he's turning some of these pitches that are borderline strikes or strikes into balls because of his framing, which
Patrick Bailey does the exact same thing.
Patrick Bailey is really good with the framing though. Like that's the thing, is like they're both really good at throwing runners out, but Bailey has a little bit of an edge when it comes to just the framing, which, let's be real, framing is literally just lying to umpires. Let's call it what it is. It's literally just lying to umpires and just tricking them. So I think the ABS system is definitely going to be a way to kind of limit all the lying. And like Beryl said, I think it's going to be a kind of a fun stat to see how they measure it. Maybe that's something that goes into I hope not a Gold Glove voting. Maybe that's something that kind of goes into just like evaluating, oh, this guy might not be the best framer, might not be the best defender, but my God, does he know the zone? Like he might not be able to stick those pitches right there on the edges, but he knows a strike when he sees a strike. So I think it'll be kind of fun to see throughout the year. And I imagine by this time next year, it'll be implemented as a full-time thing for the regular season, like how the pitch clock was tested out for so many years in the like the fall league and the summer leagues, and then they finally did it in the spring and did it in the regular season. I think it's going to be the same thing for the ABS system. But I just think overall it's something that, like I said at the beginning of this topic, this is the same system that tennis has been using for years. I know tennis, even my coworker mentioned it. Shout out Nathan. The tennis is a little bit easier because there's actual full on lines. There's visible lines. Even like Gabe said, strike zones change from players' height. There's not the same exact strike zone for every player. So tennis is a little bit different, but it's the same technology tennis has been using for years to determine if a ball was in play or out of play. So I'm just glad that they're finally bringing it. At least like thinking about it, because I do think that it adds a lot. It makes the game better. And my goodness, did baseball need it? Because 5-10 years ago, it was looking like, holy shit, what are we doing here? Games are 3 hours long. Umpires are wrong. Looks like, 15% of the time, which doesn't seem like a high number, but that's pretty bad when you can, probably count on one hand how many games are decided by a really shitty call from an umpire. Yes, Angel Hernandez, you're retired. We're fucking looking at you.
Also, because Gabe just posted it, Scott McGuff, when he had to face against the Yankees last year, ball was 3 inches off the plate.
Yeah. Aaron Judge is probably going to be pretty happy with the new ABS system, because I know he's been one of those guys that has just been screwed because of how tall he is. Umpires are so used to most of the players having close to the same height in the strike zone, to where, like even Gabe mentioned, a strike to Jose Altuve right at the knees is not a strike to Aaron Judge in the same exact position. Like the pitcher could throw it in the exact same spot, but it's not a strike. It doesn't, cross the zone at the that's even the weird thing, is the strike zone's not like a full guaranteed. It seems like there's still a little bit of gray area when it comes to the strike zone and how they determine what the zone exactly is. But who knows? Maybe we'll see a change on that and we'll see a different strike zone. But I don't know. I just think that the ABS is just a good thing for baseball in general.
I also want to bring up Jeff's other comment. Basically, it's literally making these umpires feel even worse about themselves, as they should, because we brought it. There's no accountability. Like MLB doesn't do anything. Some of these got like we said, Angel Hernandez. Some guys were notoriously known for having awful strike zones. They knew it. They knew Major League Baseball wouldn't do anything about it, so they didn't change. And I love how Gabby did it twice in 2 innings. I'm I wanted this season so bad. I am sick and tired of seeing games the outcome being on if this guy thinks it's a ball or a strike. And because of how they've been calling it throughout the game, guys have to expand their zone when most of the players know the strike zone, because there's a reason why some of them have Juan Soto and Perdomo. There's some guys get more walks than others because they know what's a ball and a strike. It's very hard to do that when the umpire, like Gabe said, changes their mind on exact same pitch, exact same location in the first inning and the ninth inning. It's really hard.
The time you'll hear Geraldo Perdomo and Juan Soto mentioned the exact same sentence for this exact same skill.
Yes, it is. I want to give a shout out to my friend Fernando. Fernando, appreciate you for stopping by, my man.
Yeah, and the thing is, strike zone shouldn't be subjective. It should be plain as day, same as what's an out and what isn't an out. An out is an out, a strike is a strike, a ball is a ball. These guys have been training their entire lives to know where the strike zone is, and every player is different. Every player knows what their own strike zone is, and it shouldn't be left up to an 80-year-old with bad eyesight to decide, what is a strike and what isn't a strike. When he feels like it on a whim, like I mentioned before, go look at any baseball game. The strike zone changes, and it changes constantly throughout the game. And, we're talking about framing. Again, it is lying to the umpires. Where you catch it and the way you frame it, it looks like it's a strike. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But with the technology now, we know how it works. Tennis has used it for 10 years. Soccer has been using it for since the last World Cup, in 2014. I think they started using this technology too. We have systems in place that can measure perfectly what is a strike, what isn't a strike, and also, by the way, the NFL use it as well. Like, holy crap, why are we using stupid ass chains to figure out
Postcard.
what's a first,
It was this short.
what is a first down, what is, and we have the technology. Put some damn sensors in the ball so we can know what is, if they made it or not. But at this point, we can't just let these games be decided by some blind 70-year-old bat. Like, we can't keep doing that anymore, especially because there is more money involved. Like, it isn't just sponsorships. You're talking about gambling stuff, like, which I don't do, but that is a huge problem. Like, you know somebody had the money line on that Scott McGuff at bat, and he gets called out on the strike that's 3 or 4 inches outside the zone. That would have tied the game. It would have been 6-6, bottom of the ninth, still with the bases loaded. And instead, the game ended right there. And guess what? We missed the playoffs by 1 game.
Yes, I think it'll definitely be one of those where you can look back on a lot of things and count it as the reason why the game was, turned one way or the other. Because you brought up soccer and like their system they're using it for. My coworker Nathan did bring up because he's a big soccer fan. One of the things that I wouldn't say like he worded it as like a worry of him, but something that I think which is a fair point, might take a little bit of the fun out of it. Is imagine like, oh, like he was saying like, oh yeah, somebody scores a goal and then they're like, no, he was offsides, or no, like it doesn't count, and then they go and review it for 5 minutes and they come back and they're like, all right, goal counts, and everyone's kind of like, ooh, okay, yay, now we can like celebrate and move on. Whereas maybe there's going to be whether next year it's in a playoff game or in like a big playoff type game, like a divisional rival matchup, to where, oh, it's a strikeout or it's ball 4, and then everyone's hyped up like, oh, now the bases are loaded, the offense has a chance, everyone is all, woo, let's go, and then they challenge it, and then immediately it's like, okay, we just got gaslit for no reason, or the other way around where it's like, cool, we're sad, and then now we're trying to celebrate randomly. Like, that's a good point, but I think if anything, because of how fast it is, it's not going to be like with the NFL and their challenges, not like going to be like like soccer. I was gonna say the soccer, what the fuck, like soccer with like it taking a few minutes. I think the fact that it is pretty fast should negate any of that, but it is at least a fair point for my coworker that I wanted to bring up. And
these
my
take 5 seconds. They take 5 seconds.
Yeah, they really do. So they should be pretty fast.
Yeah, it's not like the regular challenges; those do take a while. And before the challenges got implemented, I remember one of the big discussions being like Galarraga, his perfect game being taken away because of that, but also the play where Jeter against Oakland, I can't remember who it was, like that little
the shovel pass where Giambi's knee, he touched the plate and then Posada's glove hit his leg on the backswing. Oh, trust me, my dad's an A's fan. I know this is
yeah. So that's the thing. It's like that play, the excitement of that play, everything, that's gone down as one of the biggest plays in history. It gets replayed over and over again. But that play would have been affected by the replay system. There probably would have been a 5-minute delay in between, the game ending or not because of that. And I can understand that, but again, you want to get the calls right. You don't want, like you're saying, like we have the technology now to slow down video, and you don't want to see clear as day in the video that a guy is safe or out and he gets the call wrong. And then again, you get into allegations of gambling or anything else. And it's just, you don't want things to be decided by human error.
No.
Yeah, it's like you said with the gambling and all that. There's just too much money tied up into professional sports to let the human error kind of get in the way for a lot of these. But there was kind of a fun thing. We were going to announce it last show, going into this, and we're gonna announce it last show and have the winner announced here. But obviously, I got caught up doing a bunch of nursery stuff, home stuff that takes priority, so couldn't get to it. But gonna announce it now. We're doing a little giveaway. We're probably gonna announce it. I guess we'll just give it a week. We're gonna post it on Twitter too. So for you guys that aren't, hearing this live or whatnot, all the like official like rules, quote unquote, will be posted on Twitter on how to get it on the giveaway. But we're giving away a few items to you guys to kind of, again, show you guys our appreciation for everything, for always tuning in, following along, and just to kind of, get the hype for the season started. So there's a few things, like I said. First off, Got a nice little Corbin Carroll Rookie of the Year bobblehead. It is in here. You guys saw this. It's actually on my shelf, I believe, right behind. Oh, my chair's in the way. It's right there. It's right, like right there by the Gonzo jersey below the Jordan Lawler bat. So the Corbin Carroll Rookie of the Year bobblehead. We're going to be giving this away as item number 1. Item number 2, the nice little Hall of Fame T-shirt, Randy Gonzo in that beautiful teal. This will also be a part of the package. And then one of the things that we got from the MV party that my legs definitely hated me for because, man, standing around just definitely sucked. Try to get as many names as I could. Obviously, if you guys were listening to the last episode, you know they rotated out a bunch of names. Couldn't get every single person I hoped for, but still got some pretty cool people on here. I got, let's see, the first side. I got Gray Kissinger, Alec Thomas, and Randall Grichuk on this side. Got rotated around Renee Pinto and Brandon Fott on this side. Over here, Jake McCarthy, Seth Martinez, and then Dre Jameson down at the bottom. A nice little Dre Day signature. So there a bunch of good names on here. Obviously, a few that might be DFA'd, but still a baseball with Brandon Fott, Dre Jameson, Jake McCarthy, Alec Thomas, Randall Grichuk, all signed. This will be item number 3 in the giveaway. Comes with a cool little case we'll ship to you guys. But again, we'll have all the details on Twitter and all that we will be announcing for you guys because we want to, again, show you guys our appreciation. And then Corbin Barrel's actually kind of spoiled, I guess not spoiled it, but usually we go, especially as we get into the season, we might do like 2 podcasts a week. We're actually doing back-to-back podcasts. We're doing tonight and then tomorrow morning. It's a little bit of a different time. Tomorrow morning, we're having special guest, huge Snakes fan, Warehouse MVP, Blitzball Battle legend, and Floorball legend too. Their team did pretty solid. If you guys know who I'm talking about, as we're gonna have Dalton Feely of John Boy Media. He's going to be joining us as a special guest here tomorrow morning. Very busy person, so we appreciate him and his time kind of carving out a little bit of his schedule to be on here to spend some time with us. So make sure you guys are here. I believe we'll be live at 10 in the morning, Arizona time.
11.
Thank you for correcting me. 11 in the morning, Arizona time. He's going to be
1
on
Eastern.
Here. Yeah, 1 Eastern. We're going to talk a little bit about some obviously like,
off-season preview, and Brett's favorite topic he wants to ask them about.
Yeah, I got a few questions about him because again, I watch a bunch of the Warehouse games, so it's crazy to see that I've been watching John Boy Media and all their stuff. For you guys that know, back in like Blitzball Battle 1 when he was singing his walk-up songs every single time he came up to at bat, he'd always had a different one. But Dalton's a blast. He's a great dude. We met him last year at a Dbacks game when he gave him the Walker Avenue shirt. He's just a great guy to talk ball with. Could chat with him for hours. So again, I think it's going to be a really fun stream. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow at, again, 11 a.m. Arizona time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We'll try to see if we can get a few questions in for Dalton, but again, he is, at least from you guys, but again, he is a very busy man. So if you guys can't get your questions in this show or get them answered, he does a lot of times, especially on Twitter. Make sure you follow him on there. Do kind of like where it's like, oh, hey, I'm on the way home or I got some time to kill. Shoot me your D-backs questions. That's a great time to get any questions that you have for him over there. So again, make sure you follow him on there. But most importantly, tune in tomorrow because we are going to have a very, very fun show for you guys. And we hope to see every one of you guys there. But I know we're approaching an hour and a half. It's a long one. I know it's a Friday night. So
I got one thing I want to say.
Okay, touch on it.
For the giveaway, we know some of you are not on Twitter. So people that are watching this on YouTube, leave a comment on the video. That's all you got to do. I literally can put anything you want. Like, it doesn't matter what the comment is. As soon as you put the comment in, that'll be a entry for you. And then on Twitter, we will have a post. Just retweet the post. That's all you got to do.
I also forgot to add this part of the giveaway. I do have one of these that I was meant to give away a while ago, but I got one of the B guy cards too. I'm gonna throw in the giveaway pile because we're going into 2025. Got to enjoy one of the more memorable moments from 2024. But yeah, this was the Tops Now card from when Matt Hilton, you guys know, had to come and save the day. So throw that in there. So the cool 4 items for you guys.
Also, that's
in the game. So tomorrow's just gonna be an action-packed day, and I'm excited to have you guys join us along. But like I said, we've been here for about an hour and a half. There's been a lot that we discussed, but Gabe, I want to pass it to you first. Anything that you maybe final thoughts, anything that you didn't get to touch on earlier, anything like that?
Just I want to bring up real quick, Perdomo, he does have 2023, his on base percentage was like 5 or 6 points lower than Corbin's was. And Corbin won Rookie of the Year, so I just want to say walks don't slump. So if anybody's worried about his productivity going forward, walks don't slump.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Brandon? Any final thoughts or anything that you wanted to touch on before we?
I'm just glad the season is here, and I'm glad I decided to change my shirt because I wore my other favorite team shirt like 5 minutes before Brett joined me. I was like, wait a second, let me change my shirt so that a certain producer doesn't hound me for not wearing the right team shirt. So thought that was funny. I'm just excited for the season, you guys. My expectations are very high with this season because there's no reason. Call me crazy, Dbacks can threaten the Dodgers, in my opinion, because they will have injuries. They do every year.
It's already started. I mean, Bobby Miller.
No, do not go there.
Bobby Miller's okay. No, I'm not making a joke. Genuinely, like they've already had an injury scare yesterday. I'm glad Bobby Miller's okay. That's a scary thing. When I was like 12, I was sent to the hospital. It was in the Tournament of Champions. A dude hit a comebacker that one hopped off the ground, hit me right in my chest. I just remember going and like, ow, that hurt, and then seeing the wooden foul pole as I was going to the ground. And wake up in the hospital. So any kind of injuries like that, like I'm not even making jokes. Like they are scary. I'm glad he's okay, but it is a true thing where the Dodgers, whether it's an arm injury or just some unfortunate luck like that, they do have some injuries. Seems like everywhere. So don't want to wish any injuries on players, obviously, but it seems like something that just the Dodgers have happened a lot. So if that is the case and they do have the same thing, like even Gabe said, most of the rotation is probably going to get in 150 innings. The D-backs, if they can stay healthy, they can be strong. I agree with Brandon. They could threaten the Dodgers,
Bold take. So either all look like geniuses come August and September, or the Dodgers clinch in the middle of August.
I'd be okay with even if just, man, one team other than the Dodgers have won the NL West since 2012, and that was the Giants in their bullshit 2021 where they won like 107. What kind of devil magic were they going on? How do they get those kind of years out of Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt?
It doesn't make sense because they already had their devil magic with their odd year World Series titles. Like
even year, our year. I remember that very specifically. Even year, our year. 10, 12, 15.
So they use devil magic for that. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But we appreciate each and every one of you guys for joining us here for another fun, exciting episode of Dbacks Dispatch. Spring training is back. Baseball is so back. We've never been more back. We've never been more D-back. But again, follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky. Join the Discord, especially I believe we're going to try to get at least one spring training kind of meetup. Hopefully it's a D-backs game. If not, we're at least going to try to just go to some spring training game. Get to meet those prices. I don't know.
Those prices are insane. That's what I'm saying. Maybe it'll have to be a D-backs away game that's not the Cubs because even at Sloan Park, it's insanely priced. But again, join the Discord. It's free. Stay in touch with all of us in there. Most of the channels are always popping off in there. So again, if you're looking for some more D-backs fans to kind of chat ball with, that's the place to be. Go over to azsnakepit.com. Check out a bunch of the articles over there. As daily, there is new content. Sometimes and usually multiple times a day, there's some great content. Our man Jeff in here, he puts out some banger articles on there. So make sure you guys go check all the stuff that they have over on AZ Snake Pit. But again, we will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. And we're excited to have you guys join us for another episode of Dbacks Dispatch. So we'll see you then.
It's the Dbacks Dispatch. Let's go. Yeah, Brandon Red Gate, Josh on the floor. West Coast vibes, catch us on the air. Home running dogs, diamond gems we share. Brandon was a dad, Caesar man was a plan. Red breaks it down, tells it like it is, man. Gabs on fire, brings the heat every time. Josh on the mix, keep the beat so prime. I got the insight, 7 weeks to hit. Tune in, Dbacks Dispatch, this is it. Now we rollin'. Dbacks Dispatch, yeah. Talk to Brandon Gabe, this is Big Catch. Josh on the mix, he makes a piece. West Coast vibe, got the G fucking the band. The home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. Dbacks Dispatch, we here to stay. Yeah, catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it. We got the home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. Dbacks Dispatch, we here to stay. Catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it.